wanted to ask, how tough was the world of your average human before the invention of agriculture? I've read Yuval Harari's Sapiens book, and he says that if you survived infancy, life in these small hunter-gatherer communities wasn't necessarily as brutal as we might imagine. Like, a lot of problems such as plagues, wars, poor nutrition, etc., started arising once we settled down and began farming. What do you think of
Yeah,
that?
I think it would have varied. So at times life would have been pretty good. So in the warm stages, even in places like Europe, there was a lot of food around for people who knew how to acquire it. So it's still a dangerous world, of course. You know, you're out there in a place with in Europe. You have lions, hyenas, wolves, bears. Um, these are dangerous places to be. And Neanderthals and our early Homo sapiens, they were having to confront those animals to acquire their food. That was a risk all the time of death. And so, you know, there were hard times, and when the climate gets cold, it really is very challenging then. And there's an interesting situation in some Neanderthal sites that people actually mapped in sequences in France when the Neanderthals were building fires in their sites. And the weird thing was, when it got really cold, there didn't seem to be evidence of hearths in those sites. And you think, well, why not? That's the very time they need fire. But the problem is, even having fire has a cost, because you've got to go out and get that firewood to keep that fire going. And in a very harsh winter, going out to search for firewood for hours could kill you. And so these populations sometimes had to make these hard choices of assessing the risk and doing something that might kill you, or avoiding it and having to do without a fire that night, even though it was bitterly cold. So yeah, at times life was very hard, but at other times, you know, if they were able to get enough plant resources to supplement their diet, even when they didn't kill a large animal, if they had good plant resources, they would still have plenty to eat. So we know from modern hunter-gatherers that you know, life isn't always stressful, that they do have leisure time. Once people had the use of fire and could regularly make it every evening, and they got their fuel, they can sit around that fire and actually extend their daylight time. And that's probably when populations started to tell stories to each other. They'd be talking about what happened that day, what they're going to do the next day, starting to tell stories about their ancestors. So the presence of fire would have encouraged social bonding, social complexity. Probably the evolution of language, complex language, was probably linked with these gatherings in the evening of people. So yeah, these Neanderthals and Homo sapiens would have had those social situations.
Oh, that doesn't sound that bad. No energy bills, no rising costs, no 9 to 5.
Yeah. But given a bad winter,
Okay,
times could be pretty hard for
right.
you. Yeah.